Hey, what's up, guys? John here. Evictions are skyrocketing all throughout the country.
Eviction filing rates are soaring.
Eviction rates in many U.S. cities have returned to or exceed pre-pandemic levels.
In some cities, the average weekly filings are more than 50% higher than they were before the pandemic.
Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Dallas, Houston, Austin, Chicago, Philadelphia, Atlanta, the entire state of Florida. Eviction is just getting out of control. And with it, a lot of big changes are happening. We have a 50-year high in apartment construction, all hitting the market right now.
New apartment construction is soaring across parts of the United States.
Now on track to beat, in fact, a 50-year high.
You have rents having fallen 8 months in a row. And the reason for it is a boom in new apartments. Yet rents are still up 22% from 2020, which we have to pay very, very close attention to, because at the same time, landlords' expenses are up greatly as well. Property insurance has gone through the roof. If you look at all the problems that have happened in Maine, the big flooding there, LA, San Diego, San Francisco, all the many billions of dollars in damages. Look at Florida, the Hurricane Lee, and all these different problems that have been happening. Insurance is just going through the roof.
Climate change could make their insurance dramatically more expensive.
California is considering new rules that would allow insurance companies to consider climate risk in their policies. Could send premiums soaring.
And these costs are getting pushed onto landlords. And so landlords are pushing these costs onto tenants. But if tenants can't afford to pay it, what's going to happen? Well, a really big problem is going to happen. And that's what I think we're walking into. But inside of big problems come big opportunities. And this is what I believe is going to be the greatest opportunity to invest in real estate we'll ever see. I'm going to break it down for you. I'm going to give you the facts and show you exactly what's going on. Please hit the like button. Hit the like button. YouTube will share the content, educate more people about what's happening in America's economy. And if you'd like to fix your credit, we would love to help you at my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any negative item on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video. Schedule a free strategy session for tomorrow, for Wednesday. Take a look at this. So, U.S. median rents fall for 8 months in a row on boom of new apartments, right? Orlando, Austin, Dallas see the biggest decline in rent prices. Now, when you buy an apartment building, call it a 5-unit, 10-unit apartment building, you're buying that building based on net operating income, in most cases, the cap rate. And so if rents are going to drop, say 3%, 4%, 5%, and you're buying that deal on a 4 or 5% return, 6% return, what ultimately happens if insurance continues to go up and taxes go up and cost of service and manage that building goes up? You're going to go out of business, right? That's what's going to happen. Millions and millions of people bought properties over the last few years to be an Airbnb investor, or to fix and flip an apartment building, or to do a 1031 exchange, leaving LA and try to go to Florida. A lot of people are trading a lot of property, and a lot of people are underwater in a lot of these properties. And so as rents go down and everything else goes up, it's going to present an opportunity for people to go out there and pick up some, a lot of distressed deals. Very similar to what we saw in 2008, 2009. So if the economy is so great, why are evictions soaring? This came out, the dates are important, February 13th, 7 days ago. A recent Harvard study found that half the country's renters are spending a third or more on their income on housing. Those are the people fortunate enough to find housing when there's a nationwide shortage of affordable homes. Combine the rent line item with soaring cost of childcare, and don't forget groceries, and well, you can understand why evictions have spiked and homelessness has reached a record high, right? Then you look at what's happening right now in Texas. Amid high rents, eviction filings in major Texas cities soar above pre-pandemic levels. This came out 4 days ago, February 16th. Landlords have filed more than 177,000 eviction cases in Houston, Dallas, and Austin, and Fort Worth areas in 2023. So just those 4 cities, 177,000 evictions. It's absolutely insane. According to rent records tracked by Eviction Lab, a research center based in Princeton University that tracks eviction filings, that figure represents a slight uptick from 2022, their first full year after the Supreme Court struck down the federal government's nationwide eviction moratorium in Houston and Fort Worth. Eviction filings have consistently exceeded pre-pandemic levels for nearly 2 years. Cities in Texas used to be some of the most affordable ones in the country. Now, look at this. Absolutely crazy. Same exact thing, right? High rents, eviction filings, major cities soar above pre-pandemic levels. Then you have Las Vegas, 5,000 evictions in January, 150% higher than pre-pandemic levels, right? Then, this came out February 17th. This was, yesterday, right? So February 17th, out of a Los Angeles woman takes her own life following an eviction dispute with her landlord. You're starting to follow these trends, and then we look at how the government's going to step in here and try to, step in here and combat inequity and inequality, right? And what they're going to be doing here is issuing a lot of payments and kind of being the middleman between the landlord and the tenant. No longer is it the tenant and the landlord signing a lease agreement and, the landlord agrees that, hey, I'll provide a clean, fair, nice place to live, and, you just pay me rent on the first of the month. If you have any issues, send me an email or contact property management, let us know, and we'll come out there and we'll take care of it, right? No longer is that. Now the landlord is essentially White House, and the White House will be able to say, there's a moratorium, or these are the terms, or you're not allowed to charge junk fees or credit application fees, which is all happening right now. Biden-Harris administration takes on junk fees to rent a lower housing costs, right? So when you start to look at this, then it says state help is on the way for Floridians struggling to pay rent and facing eviction. And what this says is more help is on the way for Floridians struggling to pay their rent. It's through the state's temporary rent, and there's nothing temporary about something from the state. Rental Housing Association grant, and first deadline of the year for pre-application is 5 p.m. It comes at a time when Denver saw a record more than 13,000 people facing eviction last year. When did this come out? February 20th, right? So it's all happening right at the same time. That number of evictions last year in Denver is more than any other year since 2008 housing crash, right? Or housing crisis, right? So then you have Pittsburgh. This is happening in Philadelphia. So you start to look at how the laws are about to change. Because if you have a society, let's just say for an example, that half of the society is Republican and half of the society is Democratic, right? Or Democrat. So you have one form, Republicans generally will feel that they prefer traditional property rights, capitalism in the traditional sense, and they have their own beliefs, right, on how the economy should work. And it should work based on how America was originally built in many cases. Then you have Democrats. In many cases, they believe that the entire game is rigged and the entire game is not being played in the best way for everybody, and that essentially capitalism is the problem, and that they need to be able to tax the rich and go after the rich to combat inequality and inequity and all these different buzzwords, right? So everyone has their own belief. But when you have a society where, let's just say, for example, a lot of people in this side, in this camp right here, feel like they are being pushed to the edge. Maybe they're getting evicted from their homes. Maybe they're losing their rental properties because of what's happening in the economy. They're losing their jobs. They can't afford inflation. You're going to slowly start to see many of the people on the Republican side start to move to the Democratic side. And this party is going to get much, 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 much bigger, without doubt. And so with that, what I believe is going to happen is there's going to be a lot more tenant protections in a lot of different markets, and there's going to be a lot of curveballs and headwinds coming to real estate landlords that are already being pushed to the brink financially that might not be able to, to be able to offset these newfound costs. For example, proposed legislation pushes for eviction filings to be sealed from the public. Now, this just came out 4 days ago, where they want to basically, if a tenant got evicted and that tenant wants to relocate and move to another place, that tenant, the landlord won't have any idea that that tenant was just kicked out. So what does that mean? That new landlord is taking on newfound risk, right? Newfound risk, to say the least. And so if this is what's going to be happening, and they're going to be pushing for, today's joint hearing really highlighted the need for legislation to establish a statewide eviction record sealing policy. You have to realize this is not just happening in Colorado. It's not just happening in Philadelphia. This is Philadelphia here, or Los Angeles, or San Francisco, or New York City. It's going to be coming to a lot of different areas. Just some areas will be coming sooner than others. I believe areas like Texas and Florida will probably be, a lot more landlord friendly for, the next couple of years. But I think overall, as the economy starts to move more towards, AI and tech and, the fourth industrial revolution, we're going to see more and more people demanding more tenant rights. I feel like that's what's probably likely going to happen here. So with that, it gives a new investor an opportunity to be able to underwrite risk differently based on newfound costs that could potentially be coming, where rents actually will be going, because we're at a 50 or higher in apartment construction. Rents are going to continue to soften. Borrowing costs are going to continue to rise, and insurance and taxes will likely be higher for longer. And so all of these newfound costs are an opportunity for a new investor to say, hey, this is what I think this deal is really worth. And at the end of the day, the buyer is the one that determines the value of the property, not the seller. The seller determines the list price, the buyer determines the actual sales price. And so when you have a situation where a lot of people are getting priced out of the market, they're unable to buy, and you have a lot of sellers that are potentially going to be more motivated you have a buyer's market, a buyer's opportunity, right? And so look at just the renters bill. There's a federal rent control, right? So that was being discussed right now from the White House. But when you look at a lot of these new protections that they're talking about, Concord City passes rent control ordinance, you start to see a lot of Supreme Court won't hear landlords challenge New York rent stabilization, right? A lot of conversation happening about these small towns, a big city problem, the rent is way too high. You're going to start seeing this happen more and more and more, where, here's a really good example of this. This came out January 17th. Jaw-dropping stat about the state of debt in America. At that time, they said the average American owed $5,875 on their credit card, right? Then it goes from January 17th to, this is February 8th. So 3 weeks later, then the average debt on a credit card increased by $500, reaching $6,360, right? So average credit card balance in America escalated to an unprecedented level of $6,360. You're going to start to see this debt situation spiral out of control. Young adults are getting used to living on a financial cliff. Here's a really good example of this. Millennials and Gen Zers are pulling in bigger paychecks, but much of their spending is fueling short-term purchases like food, right? This is insane, absolutely crazy. The White House Renters Bill of Rights is being worked on right now, and this is, this will allow them eviction prevention, diversion of relief, the right to organize. Essentially, tenants can go on strike on the properties, education enforcement, enhancement of rights, clear and fair leases, right? And clear and fair leases is not the landlord's version of clean and fair leases. This is the tenant's version of clean and fair leases. And so you couple this with the junk fees that they're trying to remove, to where tenants can provide their own credit reports for rental. So they can say, look, this is my credit report. I'm not going to pay for you to pull my credit report. I'm going to provide you with what I say my credit report is, my credit scores are, right? So we all know that there's a lot of shadiness going with, fraudulent income documents and proof of funds and all of these things that have been happening on TikTok. A lot of people have been talking about this, where, landlords, property managers are saying that they're getting duped by a lot of this fake information. So you look at that, coupled with late mortgage payments pile up for a giant apartment lender. Landlords are they're not in the same place they were in 2021. Let's just put it that way. And I think this year, with 70% of rental properties owned by small investors, and small businesses are in a worse position now than they've been in a long time. Small business bankruptcies on the rise, December 7th, 2023. Bankruptcy filing surge first half of 2023. You're starting to see more financial distress coming in this market, this economy. And I think it's going to present a really, really, really big opportunity to invest in distressed real estate. That's what I believe. If you understand what you're doing, you understand the laws, and you're able to buy these properties and do so intelligently, not buying a 4 cap today or a 5 cap today in an area where it's going to have really strong tenant protections, where if you have to evict a tenant, it might cost you $30,000, right? Maybe the tenant doesn't pay rent, maybe the tenant loses their job. Invest in the right markets, buy the right deals, have the right strategy. What do you think about this entire situation? Where do you see this all going? Drop below. Let's have a conversation about this. And if you do have an intention of investing in distressed real estate, which I recommend everyone learn about real estate and grow and scale businesses, or at least if you have maybe you have a great job, keep that job. But put yourself in a place where you have stable, reliable income, a great credit score, and you have a really good game plan to grow wealth. What you're not going to want to do is sit on fiat dollars over the next 4, 5, 6 years, because I can promise you, the US dollar, the purchasing power, is going to continue to shrink and erode, and the cost of everything is probably just going to continue to rise. Minus rents, I think rents are going to be going down in the short term. What do you think about this entire situation? Drop below, hit the like button. If you'd like to fix your credit, we'd love to help you. At my company, GreatCreditFast.com. That's GreatCreditFast.com. If you have late payments, medical bills, charge-offs, foreclosures, bankruptcies, repossessions, or any issue at all on your credit report, go to GreatCreditFast.com. Click the link in the description just below this video and schedule a free strategy session for tomorrow, for Wednesday, and I'll catch you next video.